Hello, everyone. I am Luna Willows.
And I'm Jenah Pierce. We'd love to welcome you to our podcast, The Flow of Ink,
which is a great place where we take our writing life day by day and our stories page by page.
So why don't you sit back, relax, and stay for a bit while we have a chat.
Yes. We actually, Jenah, have 2 questions for our Q&A portion.
Woohoo!
I'm excited. And it looks like our first question we have is for you. Ashley Morrison commented, "I love this. I totally can't wait until the book comes out. Also, I have a question for Jenah, if you're still doing the Q&A thing, that is. Jenah, your story about being separated from your older brother and being reunited with him later in life. How did that make you feel? And what was it like to see him for the first time you met him?"
Ooh, that is a very good question. Thank you, Ashley, for listening into our podcast, and I'm so excited. I can't wait to get the book out to you and everybody else. That is a very good question. Trying to think of the best way to answer this. Being reunited with my older brother was like the happiest feeling in the whole world. Like there's no feeling to describe it. Like the very first, when I first met him before I actually met him in 2007, I had just come home from a cruise trip around the British Isles overseas. I came home with my grandma, and it must have been like a night or two after coming home, and the way that whole thing happened was I was just chilling. It was me and a friend that were just chilling, and it was midnight, and I got a friend request from somebody on MySpace, and at that time I had MySpace set up so that nobody could add me unless you knew my last name. And this stranger who I didn't even know somehow managed to add me on MySpace. So I said, okay, what is this?
Right.
So I added him, and then he messaged me immediately, within 15 minutes, and said, I think that your mother is my mother as well. I've left her a message. Can you reach out to her and get her to check her messages? And then, of course, it's like midnight, but Mom's still up, and I'm freaking out. This is like August 2007. I am totally freaking out. I go zooming into my mother's room next door, and I tell her about it, and she is just so shocked and stunned, she didn't even know what to think. Mm-hmm. So I logged her into MySpace and pulled up the message, and it turned out to be him. And I had been, ever since I knew about him around the time that my baby brother passed away, mm-hmm. I had wanted so bad to have my older brother in my life, and to see that he had reached out to us, it was so surreal at first, but I was just so happy. And then we actually met in October, a few months later, that year in October. I cried. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I cried, I bawled like a little baby, and it's just, I still cry when I see him. I just love him and my nephews and his wife and his mother-in-law. I love them all. They're part of my heart. They're part of my family. And I can't imagine not having him in my life.
Mm-hmm. So happiness would definitely be the feeling.
Yes.
That's so great.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, Ashley. That's a good question.
Very good. And thank you for being our first commenter.
Yes. And I also see here that we have a question from Leona, who is Luna's mom.
Yes.
And her question is, have you been working on a story that you were writing called The Undiscovered on the web novel platform? I haven't seen a chapter in a long time. Yeah, Luna, what's going on?
So, as I described a little bit in a previous episode, I quit for, gosh, now it's been over a year. Basically, I was writing the story. It had 6 chapters, and my grandma passed away, and I just couldn't write anymore. Um, I like all the inspiration and the love for the story at the time had left me. But after talking to you and you commenting like we need more chapters, I kind of hacked my way into it because I forgot the email I was using and reread it. And I think about 2 nights ago, was it? I actually updated the first chapter in a year.
Yes! I cannot wait.
So I,
Seriously, everybody listening to this, you have to go to that website, that web novel platform, and check it out. It's called The Undiscovered.
yes,
I
I will
love it.
actually post, if I can, a link to it. My name on there is just Luna_Willows. So it's a very, very good story. I love it. I fell back in love with the main character, just started writing, and she opened up my heart again. So, if you want to check it out, go there. I will try and post a link. I think I can. Because I can send other people links, so I don't know why not.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, now on to our questions. Spoiler alert to anyone listening. This is the second book in the Shivers series. I almost called it a trilogy. The series from Maggie Stiefvater. So, if you haven't read it or you want to read it without hearing spoilers, please click out now because we're gonna uncover everything.
Absolutely. Last warning.
Yes, very big warning. So, I will ask you first, Jenna. Which character, even though I already know, did you like the best and the least, and why?
Okay, well, the best character still, in my opinion, remains the same as Mr. Sam Roth. I mean, how can you not? He's just so sweet and patient and kind and,
Loving.
yes, loving. And then at the same time, he gets so much undeserved backlash. I'm just like, why y'all gotta put my poor Sammy through that? What's wrong with you?
Yes.
But he is the best character in the whole series so far, in my opinion. Now the character that I liked the least, I'm gonna have to say, for this story, it changes to Jack and Isabel's father. He's ugh. I'm just gonna leave it at that because I don't like him. There's just the way he is, reacts about the wolves and stuff. I'm just like, nah, you ain't cool. You my enemy, man.
I think his name is Tom Culpepper or something.
Yeah, Tom Culpepper. That's his name. You see, I don't even like him. I don't want to put a name to him.
He was definitely a highly disliked character, even from my point of view. It's funny because Jack, I believe, was both of our least favorite from the first one, so it's kind of interesting that his father took over that hated role.
Yeah, true, true. All right, let's see what your answers are.
This is difficult. I want to say Sam for my favorite, but I also felt a very strong pull from Isabel in this book. Like,
Oh,
I feel like we've kind of all been a mindset of Isabel at a certain point in our lives. She is, still really heartbroken over her brother's death, and she just kind of doesn't give a crap anymore, and she's gonna do what she wants, and kind of just, I want to say rebellious, but I feel like that's just the true Isabel that we really didn't see yet from the first book. So
Yeah,
yeah, I would have to say that she is my favorite in this book. I'm so glad that she had a bigger part in it. Um, I can't wait to read what she has coming up in the third book. But my least favorite is still Amy, aka Rags, and Lewis Brisbane.
you hear that, y'all? You hear that? We finally have a name to
Yes.
Grace's mom. It's Amy.
Yes, Amy, aka Rags. In the first book, I said it was because they were just absentee parents, and that doesn't really change. There's a scene that we will get into further later where they absolutely hurt our poor Sammy, and not physically, but mentally, and it breaks my heart, and I get angry at them. And they're just like, they try and step back into that role, and I'm just like, how dare you? Like, you haven't been there forever. Don't try now.
Right?
So, yeah, that would definitely still be her parents. I can't wait to see if that continues for the third book.
Remains to be seen. I'm kind of excited about the whole Isabel thing to see where we're going to go from there as well. Um,
I
all right.
sorry to interrupt you. I do have a feeling that, what is our hated character? Shelby, the she-wolf, is going to be the villain in the next book. I have that feeling. She is not gone. Like, she may not be in this story, but she is not gone. I'm just gonna say that.
Yeah, I already have this feeling. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yes, yes. So,
All right, so your turn to answer first. The question goes, was the book a quick read or a slow burn? And if it was slow, was there a turning point where the book gained momentum?
so this is difficult. I actually just read the book. Like, I finished it today, but I started reading it last night, and it was a slow burn for me in the first couple of chapters because, one, they introduce a new character in this book, and that his name is Cole. And so in the first couple chapters, you see a couple chapters from him, and you really don't know what to think of him yet. It's just like, okay, there's this new guy, and he seems mean. He seems like a big butt. But I didn't know what to think. So it's just like kind of slow for me. And then all of a sudden, when Sam was caught in Grace's bedroom by her father, I could not stop reading. I couldn't put it down. I was like, okay, I have to read it because now they're separated for a couple days. Now, like, they're not together every second. Tell me what happens. But still, overall, it only took me 6 hours to read. About an hour of that was an audiobook. I started listening to it when I was in the shower because, like I said, I couldn't put it down. I turned it on my, like, JBL speaker in the bathroom and was listening to it as I was washing my hair.
Right? I was doing the same thing over the weekend. I was trying to. But yeah, I love the audiobook. I really do.
I like that they have different people for each person.
Right?
But it was, I don't remember it. It was a chapter where it switched from Grace to Isabel, and the women characters are very close. So if it wasn't for it saying Grace at the beginning, like, I wouldn't have known it changed. Their voices
Yeah,
to me
that's
were
true.
very similar, so that was a little eh. But
Off-putting. Yep.
what about you? Was it a quick read or a slow burn?
Well, I timed myself this time with reading, and it took just a little over 4.5 hours, but not all at once. It wasn't done in one session. I had the time to read it all in one sitting because I had the house to myself for the weekend, so I had the time to do that, but I just couldn't. Though honestly, that is no fault of the authors. I have just been extremely overwhelmed with a lot of things going on. So I kind of had to take a few breaks between reading sessions just because I could not clear my mind. I could not focus. The book itself, as far as the pacing goes, did feel a little bit slow to me, but I think that's because the author was trying to introduce us to a new character and to show us how he's going to start coming into play in this series. Now the part that kind of perked me up as far as the book is concerned and kind of got me continuously reading is, well, a part where Cole and Isabel share a kiss.
Yes. That was a really good part. I loved that. I was just like, oh, yes, finally, somebody for Isabel.
Right? And then that's when I realized, I'm like, you know what? Those two are, like, perfect for each other.
Oh, yeah. The chemistry was immediate.
Yep.
Like, just like Sam and Grace. It was just like, whew, sparky.
Yep. Yep, and the personalities, they just mesh so well together. Like, it's... Wow.
Oh, yeah. So, next question. What was your favorite and least favorite scene in the book?
My favorite scene, I did just mention, it's the kiss between Cole and Isabel. Like, I love the way that their feelings are starting to, develop for each other as the sparks are flying. And then Isabel kind of wants to take it further, but he doesn't let her because he said, I'm trying not to be, the bad guy here. Like,
So this is like, you're talking about like their third kiss, I think it is.
yep. The third kiss.
Yeah, when she literally wants to take things further, and he's just like, I'm not gonna be that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He,
That's
he,
a good part.
he didn't want to ruin her, so to speak.
Yeah, but her cry.
And he came right out and said that. I'm like, you know what? Dude, you kind of just... I kind of gained a little respect for you, dude, when you said that. I'm just like, you know what? Rock on.
Yeah, but it broke my heart when like Isabel just started crying because she like was rejected, or she felt rejected, and you could tell. I was like, oh, Isabel, don't take it personally.
Oh, I just wanted to reach in through the book and, like, take her to, reality and say, hey, listen. He's somebody who cares for you. If he does that, he cares about you. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I think in some part he also said like, I ruin everything I touch, and so he didn't want to ruin her, and I was just like, oh, he's sweet, even though he's a big butthead.
Right.
But what was your hated part? What was the part that you liked the least?
I'm gonna have to say the wolf head that was presented to Sam and them by Isabel's father, Mr. Tom Culpepper. It's like, really? You gotta be like that, dude? I
He
hate you, man.
literally just like drove it up and dropped it on their freaking front. Like, I don't say lawn. It was like their drive area.
And then he's going on and on about a rant and saying, yeah, how about you stop feeding those wolves and I'm gonna hunt them all down. It's just like, dude, do you realize it's your daughter who's
Yep.
doing it? It's Isabel that's doing it. And
Yeah.
Isabel's just like, But yeah, I hated that scene. That was the worst, in my opinion, the worst scene of the whole book. I'm just like, oh no, I see where we're going in this series.
Yep. And the part that made it the most heartbreaking is that you figure out it's actually Cole's friend, Victor.
Yeah, I know. I feel so bad.
Yes, it was horrible.
What about you? What are your favorite and least favorite scenes?
So, my favorite is this. So, yours is the actual kiss that happened. The third kiss. My favorite part is when he actually leaves Isabel and chooses to not be that guy anymore. So I
To
guess
not not be that dirtbag guy
yes,
anymore.
yes, because I will say he almost seems like a villainous character in the beginning, and even in the middle. Like he definitely seems like the author put him in there to be a little bit of a villain, but like I feel like he was created to hate. But there's something forgiving in him, and that happens when he chooses that he's not gonna keep being that guy.
I think for some reason, since you and I are both attracted to this particular part of the whole book,
Yeah.
I think this is the turning point in his personality.
Yes. I agree. The only other thing is, does he kiss her? I forget. You have to remind me. Before Victor dies or after? I think it
I'm gonna
was
be honest.
before.
I'm gonna be honest. I can't remember. I think it's before.
So to me, the real turning point in Cole that like really shook him, I think, was Victor's death. Like
Yes.
he started turning definitely because he was growing feelings for her, Isabel, even though I think he didn't want to. But his real like kind of shake you moment was when Victor died.
Right, but then he didn't make the actual decision until that moment with
Yeah,
Isabel.
yeah, definitely. But my least favorite would have to be Cole dragging Sam into the bathtub.
Oh my gosh.
So it's funny because in the first book, my least favorite was when Grace drug him in there. And my second, in this book, it is when Cole does it. Now, I hate him and love him for this. Now, to understand a bit of Cole, he is a pop star. And he is a druggie and an alcoholic. He is that bad boy figure that you know, don't want your daughter to go for.
And yet,
And
all the teeny boppers in the teeny bopper generation just love him.
yep. And he got drunk one night when staying in Beck's house, and he was like, he made a deal with Sam. He was just like, well, I will like not be obsessed about only being a wolf if you just go in a bathtub. Because he finds in Beck's drawers the adoption papers for Sam and what happened between Sam and his parents. So he drags him in there and is just like, dude, it's only a bathtub. And Sam just breaks down. He just goes into what I call like full PTSD meltdown. He's there. He gets lost, and I just want to go through the book and punch him.
I cried.
I did too. Because, like, you know, you hear Sam's thoughts and he doesn't break from it for a long time. And you just, like, part of it kills you. And I'm still angry at Cole. Like, why, Cole? Why?
Yep.
So that would have to probably be my least favorite.
I better see an apology from Cole in the next book. Like a
Yes.
serious, legitimate apology.
Yep, exactly. And I think that that will come, or Sam will forgive him for being there in what happens, like, at the end of the book. Because, in a way, like, no spoilers as of right in a second, but Cole saves Grace's life.
Yep,
So
he does.
he might, in a sense, just forgive him.
We didn't have to.
No, no.
Oh, we'll go into that.
Yeah, we'll go into that later.
All right, so moving on. If you could change one thing about the book, what would it be?
So, this is really difficult. My first thought is I wish that Victor didn't have to die. Because I feel like we didn't get enough time with Victor. I feel like he could have been a really good character. But, as we said before, I think it needed to happen for Cole's evolution. I do not think he could have changed to be a good guy if he didn't die. That shook Cole. So I want to say Victor's death, but I can't. So if I would change anything, it would be that we would have more Cole and Isabel. Because I love those two.
Me too. Me too.
What do you think you would change?
Well, I would have to say more scene time with Beck and Olivia. It's bad enough we didn't get enough scenes in the first book.
No, we
And
didn't.
now we didn't get a single scene in the second book.
The one thing I will say is last time you said that you felt Rachel was left in the dust and she was kind of forgotten about. In this book, she's there more. She's definitely a little more included, but she still has no idea about the wolves.
Yeah.
Or
I
the
think
big
she's
secret
gonna find out
behind them.
eventually.
Oh yeah,
I think she's gonna find out on her own.
I think Grace actually almost told her, but then decided not to. But I would say that it was nice to see her more because, like, at the end, she was nowhere to be found. She was never mentioned. It was like she just disappeared. So it was very nice to see that the author included her more in this book.
Right. I have to say that my favorite scene with her in it would be like, Grace, what's wrong with you with this whole having Sam sleep in your room kind of thing, you know? And she's kind of like on the side of Rags and
Yeah, the parents.
Willows for being thing. It's just like, you know what?
Yeah.
Don't annoy me, Rachel. Don't start now. I vouched for you in the first book. Don't annoy me now.
Yup. I think that my favorite Rachel part was the interaction. It was in the very beginning of the book between her and Sam. She was calling him the boy. They were in the kitchen making chicken parmesan, and she's just such an over dramatic delight.
Yes, she is.
And that's the only way I could think to describe her, and I think it fits her to a T. But I love her reaction with Sam, and just like.
Yep.
And she was talking to him like Grace wasn't there, and she's like, "I'm sorry. Grace tells me that I'm being over dramatic." Or she doesn't call her Grace, but she's just like, "My partner tells me that she's making the chicken parmesan, not me." And I'm like, "Oh goodness, Rachel, okay."
I know, she's just a...
She's the breath of fresh air you need in this book. Because I will say that this book is darker than the first.
Yes.
There is, like, for anyone out there interested in reading it, like, kind of a warning because there is talk about suicide and everything like that. It does get a lot darker and a lot deeper. But it's still a very, very good book. But I do feel that Rachel is that breath of fresh air you need to break up, like, kind of the darkness.
She's a little annoying, and she makes you want to roll your eyes, but you still love her.
Yeah, you can't not. Except for, when she sides with the parents. So we're like, come on. Are you a teenager or an adult? Like, come on.
Wait to see how she reacts when she finds out about wolves.
Yes, that'll be exciting. So, next question. What is your favorite quote from the book, and why did it stand out to you? Dun dun dun.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is Sam in chapter 53. This is, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the second last chapter of the whole book. Basically, he is, they're at this point in the story where Grace has officially, she's literally in the middle of transitioning into a wolf. And he says, I'll come find you. I promise I'll come find you. Don't forget me. Don't lose yourself. Mm-hmm. And this stood out to me because, well, he understands what it's like not having the human thoughts of who somebody might be. And he doesn't want her to forget him and her love for him and his love for her.
Yep.
He just wants to be there for her.
Which is like very emotional. I remember reading that and crying because when he changes into a wolf after they had been trying so hard to not, have him change in the last book, she says, like, don't forget me and don't forget yourself. So the fact that it's now his time to say that to her, like,
The feels, I know, man, I know.
it just, like, it breaks something inside you.
What about you?
So mine is from Mr. Cole St. Clair, and he just says, avoidance is a wonderful therapy. I feel like we've all been there.
True.
Like,
Yeah.
that really spoke to me. I weirdly feel related to Cole in a lot of ways. Because, we've all hit that dark point in our lives where we're just like, I don't give a crap. And I think he actually says this to Sam during either before or after the tub scene. And he's just like, avoidance is a wonderful therapy. And I'm just like, I've been there. There's some times where I still avoid things because I don't want to face them. So shout out to Cole for, like, being the one relatable person.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, reading his story, when you come to learn his backstory, you come to understand a little bit of how and why he is the way he is. And then you just kind of like,
Yeah.
you feel for him and you kind of just want to go, okay. And just move things along and wish the best for him. And
But in the end, I really... Oh,
he really started coming into his own in the end.
yeah. Because, literally, he saves her life. He saves Grace's life. She is the main character. Sam is also the main character, but I feel like she's, like, in the number one slot, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, like, for him to save her and you see that evolution, I can't wait to see even more in the next book. Like, where does Cole go? And I care about Grace and Sam. Obviously, they're my number one. But I can't wait to see him as well.
Right? Me too.
Yes.
What feelings did this book evoke for you?
So, as I said earlier, like, it is a darker book. So I feel like there's a lot of sadness in this book. And there's a lot of times where you cried and where you really felt for Sam and Grace and everything. And it was overwhelming at times. There was points in time where I was like, okay, maybe I need to put this down because it gets you all in your feels.
Right?
But then hope, because you still just hold on to hope that Grace and Sam will still be together in the end. And now I have a new hope for Isabel and Cole. And see where that love blossoms.
Right?
What about you? What feelings did this book evoke for you?
Well, I experienced a whole array of emotions from like sadness to annoyance to curiosity to hope. The sadness of and the annoyance, the irritation with certain like characters, like Grace's parents and Cole when he did what he did to our beautiful boy Sam. Come on. Why you have to meet, a jerk?
Yeah.
And then, Isabel's father.
Oh my goodness.
So, and then curiosity to see what's gonna happen with, curiosity and hope what's gonna happen with, Sam and Grace and Isabel and Cole and Criminy, can we please get to the story of Olivia and Beck? I want to know. And Ulrich. I want to know what's going on with those guys too.
Yep.
They haven't turned back yet. I mean, it's pushing warmer temperatures now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so like my emotions were like so all over the place with this book. So I did feel some moments of darkness, and you know, I'm like, okay, I gotta put this book down, and because I'm already going through like, you know, a lot in my life right now with like being overwhelmed with stuff. So it's like, all right, I need to step away from this moment of darkness and just go do something else because, yeah. So yeah, like probably every typical emotion you would get from a book.
Yeah.
So
It's a roller coaster for sure.
yes, that's exactly right. It's a roller coaster. Mm-hmm.
So, what do you think about the book's title? Does it justify the story?
I think so. Yes, absolutely. You?
I perfectly, because I really feel through the whole book. Like it's Linger, and I feel through the whole book you're just lingering by. Like you're just lingering to hear more and more of the story, and you're just wanting more and more to come out. It keeps you in a state of suspense. So I feel like it perfectly fits the book. The title's perfect.
Exactly. Hey, you took the words right out of my mouth.
Yes.
So, how did you feel about the ending? Were you satisfied or frustrated or?
Okay, so I feel like this is the point where we have to break it to the people. Grace almost dies. And, sorry, huge spoiler there. I mean, and technically we don't really know if she is alive or dead. Yes, we hear her transform into a wolf from Sam's point of view, but that doesn't mean she didn't die. Because she was literally on her deathbed. And, like, I think the last 5 chapters is literally her, like, dying.
Mm-hmm.
And so the ending frustrated the crap out of me. Because I was like, okay, there's 4 books in this series, if I recall correctly. Our main character can't die now. Like, this can't happen to her now. But in the same sense, I was satisfied because in the first book, it made me slightly sad that Grace wasn't a wolf. That she didn't change, that she didn't get to experience this. And she also, somewhere in the book, says that, you know, she's sad that she felt a part of herself was missing because she had never been able to, like, live that. So for me, in a sense, it was satisfying to know, hey, maybe she gets her time. But then just overall frustrated because we don't know. It's the end of the book. Like, we need to read more to find out.
Right, exactly.
So, what about were you satisfied or were you frustrated?
I would have to say both. I was satisfied with the fact that Grace was able to be saved. Thank you, Cole St. Clair.
Yes.
So he saved her, and I was so happy for that. And I was happy because he's redeeming himself. Mm-hmm. And now she's staying alive. Staying alive.
Yes.
Sorry, I had to throw that in there.
Yeah, you had
to. But she's now getting to experience the transformation of being a wolf. Mm-hmm. But in the moment, though, I don't think she likes it. I don't think she likes the actual transition itself. No. But she's like literally on her deathbed when it happens. So, and then of course, I would have liked to have seen just a smidge more. Mm-hmm. You know,
like just that with a later question, but yes,
right?
Yeah. So
satisfied and frustrated both.
Yeah. Do you think that it was the right time or place to end the story, and was there more that you felt you wanted to know?
Oh, there's definitely more than I want to know. But I do think that, as seeing it from the author's perspective, as an author myself, I do feel that that ended just at the right moment where the author ended it.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I think that if she would have continued, it would have, like, not had the same edge on your seat, effect that it had. Because I was very much, like, I was sitting up in bed. I have my nook, like, right in front of me. And I was, like, leaned forward, and I was in suspense. I was like, oh my god, what is gonna happen? Because, like, quite literally, Cole, in a sense, almost has to kill her to save her. Truthfully, he doesn't know if this will work. He's like, either she's gonna die from what is happening to her, or she's gonna die because I'm trying to save her. So I was such on suspense, and I think if she would have added, like, one more, then we wouldn't have had the same suspense that it was felt in the last chapter.
True.
Yeah.
Alright, so moving on. What did you like best about this book?
I would have to say Cole using his his being, his smartness, his genius factor to do what he needs to do. I think that his evolution was, like, really good, but the best part about it was, like, seeing that he's not going to be that same guy. Seeing that the guy that you learn to hate in the beginning, because you do, I feel like there's no other description. You learn to hate him. You learn to love him. And if it wasn't for Isabel, like, I feel like that wouldn't have necessarily happened. Like, in a weird way, even if Victor died, but there was no Isabel, I think that would have changed him. But I think that both of them put together created the perfect, like, evolution for him. So my best part of this book would be him changing from the guy you learn to hate to the guy you learn to love.
I could not have said that better myself. I feel the same way.
Yeah. So what is your, I know you feel the same, but what was that moment for you? What did you like best?
Cole using his smarts to keep Sam from dying. You find out that his father is, like, what is he, a mad scientist or something?
Yep, exactly.
And so he kind of inherited the same mentality of the smartness, the IQ, the high IQ that his father had. And I think his father wanted him to follow in his footsteps kind of thing, but he didn't want to, and then, but anyways, that's a whole different, the point is, he has his father's intelligence, his father's IQ, so he figures out why.
Grace. I think you meant Grace, because you said using his smarts to keep Sam, but it's Grace from dying.
Did I say Sam? I'm so sorry. I did mean Grace. Thank you. He uses his smarts to figure out why Grace is dying to begin with. And it has to do with the fact that she hasn't turned. She was bit, but she never actually transitioned. So he figures that out. Mm-hmm. And then he figures out a way to save her. Yep. But he says, I don't know if this is going to work. For all I know, it could kill her.
But at the same time,
dying anyways.
Yeah, quite literally. And I was really frustrated by that. Because that something's happening to her throughout, at least half of this book. And I got extremely frustrated because I was just like, at first I was honestly just thinking that her wolf was coming out.
That's what I was thinking too. Like, throughout the whole book, I was thinking that was why maybe the book was called Linger, because You got that feeling in her that's lingering. The
Yeah.
fever keeps lingering, coming and going, and it's just like gradually building up. I'm like, okay, I know she's gonna wolf out. When is? It's just a matter of when.
Yeah, like I really thought that scene where Sam gets caught in her room that she was changing. That was that I thought that that was going to be her first like change.
Yeah, and then when her parents came in the room, I'm like, oh crap, here we go.
I know, because I
I know.
totally thought that she was going to change into a wolf and then they were going to see Sam and just a wolf in her daughter's bedroom. Like, I really
Can
thought that that was going to happen.
Can you imagine if that actually happened, like in real life?
Oh my gosh, no.
Like, I can't imagine, like, I think I'd be petrified of
Yeah.
something like that, honestly. But I really thought, I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
She's gonna turn into a wolf right as her parents walk in. Watch it happen. They're gonna see the transition before their own eyes, and it's gonna be like, oh boy,
Because
okay,
yeah, because
one
she's
is opened up.
literally screaming. Like, she gets this fever, she calls it, because she did. She is boiling from, like, the inside. And her stomach starts to really hurt. She's getting super nauseous. It's literally all the signs of a change. And then the change just doesn't happen. And what really frustrates me more is that she kind of hides it from Sam because she doesn't want him to worry. And she starts to know. She doesn't think she's dying until the end. But she starts thinking, okay, this is my wolf, but I'm not going to tell him because I don't want to upset him. I don't want to take from his awesome birthday and stuff and like him coming around.
I think Isabel figures it out before he does.
Yep.
And she goes, you have that wolf smell about you.
Yep. She saw it. And then she yells at Sam because she's like, it's right in front of your eyes, dude.
And then Sam does figure it out. It suddenly hits him, and then he smells wolf, and he's like, oh no.
Yeah. I think in the back of his head, like, he knew, but he didn't want to admit to himself that that's what was happening. Because he was finally finding his footing. He was finally just the boy instead of the wolf and the boy. So he
Right.
didn't want to think that he could be losing grace to it.
Exactly.
So, yeah, definitely. But how do you feel about how the story was told?
Ooh, I like this question. Okay, so I thought it was really interesting that the author added two brand new character perspectives, kind of like what they did with in the first book, where it'd be like Sam's point of view and then Grace's point of view. Well, now in this book, they added two new perspectives. One is Isabel, and then the other is Cole. It was really a nice changing viewpoints to read from Cole and Isabel's minds to see what they're thinking, and and of course in Cole's case, that's how you find out so much about him.
Yeah. I would have to say that I agree completely with you. I feel like at first I admit I didn't want any new perspectives. I was excited about Isabel because I wanted to know more even in the first book. Like, I know why she wasn't a part of the first book, but I wanted that. Like, I wanted to see her thoughts as she was going through everything, so I was excited that she was in it. But then this Cole person comes in, and I'm like, who the heck are you? I don't want you. Like,
I was thinking the same thing initially. I'm like, wait a minute.
who the heck is Cole?
Am I reading the second book or the third or what? I had to
Yeah.
double check that. I'm like, I don't know who this character is. There's no segue, no nothing. He's just there. You go.
Yeah.
I'm just like, okay, obviously he's important if he has a point of view, so I'll give him a chance, Let's find out who he is, and then at first I'm like, oh, well, you're a jerk. I don't think I like you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because he's just that guy that you love to hate, I feel like. You know?
Until the end. Until the end.
Until the end. For me, it was the moment that he decided not to go further with Isabel that I knew, okay, I like you. Like, I think there's just something worth saving inside you. I mean, I'll be honest, that was my thought.
Right, right. Um, so the next question that we have on this list would be, which parts of the book stood out to you?
So, I think the part that stood out the most was learning that Sam could very possibly die in like 14 years. Because, like, yeah, in the very end, when he figures out what's causing Grace to die, Sam finds out also the reason why, after, 10 so years, the wolves die for, like, no reason that we know of until now.
It just
Yeah, just boop. So that stood out to me a lot because I was just like, I'm glad that there was a reason. I'm glad it wasn't something that she glossed past. I'm glad she gave a reason to it. But at the same time, it's just like, oh no. Because now we have to worry about not only Grace's future, but everyone else's. That stood out to me the most.
I can understand why.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But what about you? What stood out the most?
Two scenes in particular, they're both wolf related. The first one is where they introduce you to a wolf that's already dead, and it has blood like coming out of its mouth. And they never figure out correct me if I'm wrong on this, but they don't figure out who the identity of that wolf is,
No.
right?
No,
Yeah,
they don't.
that's right. And then, of course, so that one kind of threw me off. I'm thinking, well, who is this? Please don't let it be Beck, but then I
Yeah.
realized, I'm like, well, if it was Beck, then Sam would recognize him,
Oh, I was terrified it was Olivia. I was like, you can't kill her now.
Yeah, oh my gosh, I didn't even think of that. Don't,
Yeah.
please, Maggie,
Don't
don't
do
let
it.
it be Olivia, honestly.
Even though they're already published, we have no control, but please don't let it be a thing.
No. I guess maybe we'll find out. Hopefully Olivia's alive in the next book.
And we hear from her.
Right? The second wolf scene, I would have to say, like, stood out to me is the part where Isabel's father has presented Victor's dead wolf body to Sam and Grace, and he's thinking that Grace is the one who's feeding the wolves. He's saying, "Stop feeding the wolves,
Yep.
I'm gonna hunt them all down." And I mean, he was really ranting and going off on
Yeah.
Grace when it's Isabel that's
It's his own kid.
right, and it's like, okay, no, I really don't like you. You're public enemy number one right now.
Well, yeah,
Shelby's,
because
Shelby's number two, but Tom Culpepper is number one right now for me.
let's be real. If Shelby was in the book, she'd be number one. But because she's not, Tom takes her place. But what really upset me was that he was even, like, getting down on Isabel, like, you can't hang out with Grace because she's feeding the wolves and yada yada yada. Like, really? Like, really? Come on.
know.
I kind of
Right?
hope there is a moment in the next book when she's like, okay, Dad, listen out. It's me. It's not Grace. I kind of hope that moment happens.
Yeah. I would love to see that happen. Honestly, that would be so rewarding to
Yeah.
read.
Just like, bam, Dad.
Right?
So, our next question would have to be, what scene has stuck with you the most?
I would say just that one with Isabel's father and his anger about the wolves. I mean, I can understand in a sense when you think about it because his son was attacked by wolves. So he blames the wolves for his son's
Death.
death. And in a sense, like if you really want to get technical about it,
Right.
they did kill him.
But so did his daughter.
Right.
That's,
So yeah, that's the scene for me.
yeah.
What about you?
For me, oh my goodness. I think the scene that stuck with me the most was when Grace was in the hospital dying, and when Grace's parents got there, they kicked Sam out. And so Sam was literally just sitting outside the door, basically listening to the love of his life die. Because at that point, he didn't, like, no one had thought to ask Cole if he could figure anything out or etc., etc. And so he's literally just in there thinking that Grace is gonna die. And it's like, wow, that stuck with me.
Right, he can't even be with her.
No, they won't let him in there. And that's like, it makes me so angry. And actually, her dad, Lewis, punches him when he finds him in there. Just like, Lewis,
Yeah.
are you serious? Like, because what miffed me is they weren't even concerned about her sickness. Yes, the one night that they took her to the hospital when she had what we had thought was going to be her change, when he caught Sam in the room. But after that, they kind of didn't really care, I felt like. The only thing they cared about was keeping her prisoner so she didn't see Sam again. So it's like, how dare you come in here and kick the one person who's been there for her out?
Right?
What is wrong with you?
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. I think they think that she is gonna, it's like, oh, she's never done this kind of thing before. She's never snuck a boy in the middle of the night, and she's never done it before. How dare you corrupt our daughter, kind of thing. So I think from the parental perspective, being that she's their only child and all that, in a sense, they're just kind of being overprotective in that sense because that's their daughter, you know.
Yeah.
I think that's how probably I'm not a parent myself, so I have no say. But
Right.
if I was a parent and I went through the same situation, I wouldn't be very happy either.
No, I
So
definitely wouldn't either, but we also wouldn't be the absentee parents that they were.
yeah, that's true too.
So I feel like, in a sense, like that might not even happen because we, as moms, would be there for our
True.
kids, whereas Amy and Lewis just weren't. So.
Oh well, moving on. Um. So we have two more questions for you guys today. So this next question is, what surprised you the most about the book?
Uh, what surprised me most would have to be like the end, because I truly just thought that in the end she was gonna change, which she did, but I did not know we would almost lose her in that process. So I think that's what surprised me the most, and that Cole, the person that you start growing to like hate but then love at the same time, is the only reason that we have Grace anymore. Because he's literally saying, like, they're all in the hospital. And Isabella's just like, you're a genius. Your dad was a scientist. You know all these things. Figure it out. And I love the part where he's like, I'm going to need a lot more paper. Just like, get him all the paper in the world if he can save Grace.
Right?
Start cutting down trees. We got this. So I think that was what surprised me most. But what about you?
Um, two things. The pairing of Cole and Isabel, and Isabel caring so much about Grace. Like, she, like, compared to how they are at the end of this book, from the first book, it's like, well, wait a minute. When did this friendship, when did this bond turn so close?
That's a good point, because honestly, I feel like there was never an addressed point to, oh, they're friends now. But it seems like in this book, Isabel even thinks that she's taken the place of Rachel. Like, she's her number one friend. Because there's that one point where she gets sick and misses school, so Grace asks Rachel to bring over her homework. And then Rachel tells Isabel this to try and, I don't know, ensue jealousy or something. And so when Isabel comes over and hangs out with her, she's just like, and she thought she was number one. Ha. And I was just like, wait, when did y'all become best friends?
Right?
I feel logically it makes sense because Grace was the only one there when she went through what she did with Jack. Her
Right.
parents don't understand. They just think she lost her brother. She did. But she blames herself for her brother's death. So I
Right.
feel like, in a sense, it makes sense because Grace was the only one there who understood. Olivia's not there. And Olivia wasn't really there for her. And neither was Sam.
Right.
So,
See, for Isabel, her parents, as far as they were concerned, their son had been attacked and then he died, and then that was that.
yeah. So,
But Isabel knew the truth.
yeah.
He was
She was
attacked,
there.
he turned into a wolf, and she was trying to save him and turn him back into a human, and she failed. So yeah, I can definitely see why she feels the way she does. But how she and Grace suddenly became like two peas in a pod. I'm like, well, wait a minute here.
Yeah.
When did she go from being nonchalant and not caring about, friends and all this to this person at the end where she says, I don't care, Cole, do what you have to do, figure it out, you can do this, you got this, and we're going to do whatever we can to make sure you get this down, kind of thing.
Yep. Like, oh,
Like,
what? But then at the same time, we have to think, okay, the one person that she has who she can relate to, who knows all about her, is dying. So she's going to
yeah,
do
that's
anything that
true.
she can to save her because she doesn't want to lose her too.
True. True. And then, of course, going back to the pairing of Cole and Isabel, I think Isabel brings out the best in Cole.
Yep. 100%.
That's what she's telling him. Figure it out.
Yes, exactly. It's almost as if it is the Amber to Denver. I wonder.
Nice.
Just
I like the way you said that.
yes. So, moving on to our last question. Was there anything that didn't meet your expectations?
Actually, yes. I was highly disappointed that the chapter headings did not have the temperatures in this book like the author did with the first book. And then, of course, I also did not appreciate the fact that there were no scenes whatsoever with Beck and Olivia. Like, I'm dying to know what's going on with them.
100%. Oh, yeah.
What about you?
For me, the number one disappointment was I really wish just the last chapter would have been even a paragraph, is Grace's thoughts of being a wolf. Just something, a sentence, a paragraph, something that gives us her thoughts as finally being a wolf. I was like, what the heck? We need that.
Right?
Like, I was also disappointed about the temperatures because I felt that gave it just a whole new, like, level of immersion in the first book that
Yes.
we just missed in this one. So that was disappointing. But, yeah, I have to agree with you. No scenes with Beck and Olivia, Sam going through the heartache of that, and just everything. It was just, I love the book. I will read it again, but that was very disappointing to me.
Yep. Agreed. 100%.
So,
Alright, everyone. That's all the time that we have for today. Thank you so much for joining us on this week's conversation at The Flow of Ink.
we appreciate each and every one of you. We hope to see you join us for next week's episode where we will be interviewing Ashley Regal and discussing her children's book, Draw Away the Drizzle.
Yes. And if you have any questions for us, please drop a comment below and we will be happy to address it in our Q&A portion at the beginning of next week's episode. We promise we won't bite.
not too hard. Also, don't forget to hit that bell icon and subscribe to our channel so you get notified for every episode we post. Again, thank you for joining us here at the Flow of Ink, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Ciao for now.
Goodbye.